thing.
True story. I'm so anal about this being straight.
Like the double entendres just keep going. It's like never ending.
You got to play for all the progressive audience.
We are going to all the places today.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm straight. I'm not saying it.
And you're not saying you're anal.
You should simp for me regardless.
What are you drinking? I thought you were going to drink some of the hard stuff.
Oh, I'll drink some hard stuff. Should I drink some hard stuff? Yes. You know what? We should.
Far be it from me to insist that peer pressure you into drinking.
Come on. I already did this is my second podcast. So I put all my effort into someone else's show.
Aren't you fancy? It must be nice to be so wanted.
Well, dumb me forgot that I was doing the other show. And but thank you, Google, for the pop-up reminder on my phone.
You are such a grifter going for those advertising dollars.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Are we? Is the show on? Because honestly. Okay, good.
Do you have something private you want to tell me? Go ahead. I'm not.
No. Yeah, you're not. This is not on air. So I have an announcement just to you.
Okay. Go ahead.
No. I just was wondering if we're going to pivot into the podcast, boys, because you're talking about grifting and advertisements and whatnot.
Yeah, but we're saving that. We're saving that for later, Pat. Dang it.
Can I just say that if I'm low energy right now, I just got off listening to their podcast. Like nothing sucks the life out of you more than an hour of that podcast. Like I was on the verge of napping. I thought the Peter Dow and his podcast was hard to swallow, but that was really a rough one.
Verret. You have to listen to it on 1.5. That's my advice. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for giving me that advice now. Jesus Christ. How do I do that?
Now you're going to really appreciate it.
I listened to every second of it. Like that was painful. Let's just not talk about it now.
Yeah, let's save that for later. When you've drunk a little more, it will be less painful. Well, let's get into the news of the day, Pat. It was a slow news day. We lost our former defense secretary, Donald Rumsfeld. War criminal.
Gone. I'm thinking about how to tweet it out right now because it's important that we tweet something praising him, saying what a good, like he's a good Republican or something, like he was
honorable ones.
A safeguard for the evil Republicans.
Yeah. Back in the day.
Yeah. He obviously got us into the Iraq War. He lied about weapons of mass destruction.
I miss the days when I used to think George W. was the worst president ever. I'm joking. He was the worst president ever. Remember for all 4 years of Trump, it was, I thought I hated Bush, but wish I could have him back. Just the absolute lobotomy happening to all the libs. Yeah, no, Rumsfeld is disgusting. What's your feeling, though? And it's okay. This isn't.
I have no feelings left after.
This isn't a friendship ender. I'm just wondering, what is your feeling on tweeting like, "Oh yay, the witch is dead," kind of tweets?
I mean, I'm not against anyone doing it. Like, if you need to celebrate somehow, if you get some love out of evil people being dead, I get it. I don't care. Personally, I don't want to do it. I don't see the point in it. I don't think it reaches out to anyone. I don't think it brings anyone closer to our opinions. And I'm just not like going to root for a dead person unless they're really, but they are, like, he is really vile. Yeah. So so I can't knock anyone doing it. It's just not what I'm going to do, But
once again, you and I, there's like no light between us.
Yeah. But okay. So here's the question.
Yeah.
Will you like tweets praising his death? Because I will sometimes if they have a point to them.
Yeah.
Or they're funny. If they're really funny and the person's vile, like Rumsfeld.
Yeah.
I don't want to put it out there myself, but I'll like it, which is sort of like cowardly, I guess. I'll just admit it.
It's walking a line. It's definitely walking a line. But in a place where you can get canceled just for simply liking a tweet I choose my life carefully.
True. But I honestly don't, nothing like it. I'm not being held back about expressing my opinion about his death because people care about it.
I agree.
Like, I don't like, if anything, I would get more people on my side for saying, congrats, he's dead. Yeah. So it's just not my flavor. That's all.
Me too. It's kind of like the death penalty. Like, I am against the death penalty, but like if a truly bad person happens to die, I'll be like, okay, I'm not going to lose sleep over that one, but I'm against the death penalty. It's kind of like, I guess it's not really like that, but it's kind of like that.
Yeah. I mean, the really vile, like if the really vile people, if you had a truth orb floating above and you could look at their history, and I would be for like, okay, we know that this is what happened. There's no factual disputes. Yeah. Kill him. I'm good with that. But the state being involved in it and the fact that obviously, hundreds of thousands of people have been killed that are innocent.
Exactly. Yeah. If a lightning bolt happens to break from the heavens and fell a person, I'm all for that. But to have it state sanctioned is a different thing. All right, good. So look, point number 1, we're good. All right. Point number 2, let me bring up, because then I do want to get into something, a newsworthy item that I think involves you a bit, but I'm going to wait. I just would like to talk for a moment about the rise in crime that we're being told is happening everywhere, and that defund the police is one of the main issues that's going to hurt Democrats in 2022.
Yeah, how? I mean, so the people spinning that argument are the Democrats that don't want to support it. Like,
right. Or Medicare for all, or canceling student debt.
The things that all their voters want that they're not going to support, they're pushing this narrative that it's going to, they like the idea, but it's got the language around it is bad. So it's going to cost us seats and all this nonsense. But, defund the police.
Fucking defend.
So their position, if you're a Democrat and you're like saying something about, the language is wrong, I wish they'd chose something else. Well, just choose it yourself. Say what you support. Say, make the argument to the public. Like, you are the people in charge. Like, the idea that the people on the ground are creating the defund narrative. Well, you're in power. Say what you support that is similar, that uses different language, but just says we're going to offset resources to different groups than the police department because they handled the issues more responsibly.
Exactly. Right.
Not that complicated.
I mean, the Venn diagram of the people who 5 years ago thought that Colin Kaepernick was being disrespectful and Black Lives Matter implied that somehow white lives don't matter. And even though they really do support, an end to police brutality, they don't like the messaging of Black Lives Matter and kneeling during the national anthem. And the people who now are all for it, but think that defund the police is problematic, that's a circle. It always is, right? They're always behind the times, and they always have a problem, and they always want to pick at the language without doing any real reforms.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't protest at sports because that's a holy place, and also the national anthem is a holy place. Right. But so you don't do that. So you get out in the streets. Well, no. You shouldn't. Right. You shouldn't. There are like 5 people at these things across the whole country who destroyed property. So capital is more important than anything. So you shouldn't do that either. Right. And you know what? You shouldn't force the vote because we have people in charge that represent our interests. You should leave it to them. You should trust the plan. And I don't want to bring religion in here, but if you just buy a few of my videos, it'll all make sense.
Yeah, exactly. Respect your elders and put money in the coffers.
So the idea is that you're never protesting the right way if they don't want you to. If they don't like the idea, whatever you're doing is wrong, one way or another. Even though politically it's a winner, like all these issues are huge winners. Defund the police is a huge winner.
Yep.
Because people, if it's like I said, some of the messaging, you can put out a poll, you can do some polling. If you're a vile poll group and you want to find a result, you can get that result.
Right.
But if you explain to people what defund means and then poll them, people all agree.
Exactly. And then there's this whole narrative being cast that crime is up, and they're tying that into defund the police. But what they always neglect to say is that the crime is up across the board. I mean, after a year of everybody being in lockdown, in city, I don't even know that any city has defunded the police yet, but in cities that have progressive DAs like San Francisco and Philadelphia, it's the same there as it is in cities that have, reactionary DAs, right? So like, that's the part that they leave out. Because what they're trying to do, of course, as always, is increase the money for the police and the militarization of the police and the, crackdown and the surveillance. I mean, it's like the same cycle over and over. It's
almost like crime rates are connected to poverty and socioeconomic status and disenfranchisement in our government and things. It's almost like you could see this and chart it.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah. And if you want to rail against people, I mean, yes, of course, anybody who's a victim of a crime, I have enormous compassion for, and nobody should be the victim of a crime. But the fact that we have millions of people who are about to be evicted, who go without health care, right? That's a crime. The fact that the billionaires and the 1% made how many trillions of dollars over the past year, which is in effect like stealing from the rest of us. Those are crimes. That's violence, right? But like, that's not talked about. I mean, it's really.
Well, I mean, the good news is that the infrastructure bill is the plan is to fund a lot of it with going after people's who are defaulting on their taxes, yeah, but not like the wealthy corporations, just like people like you and I who don't pay their taxes. Although you probably pay your taxes. I
mean, we're on a payment plan, but yeah. The biggest group of people who are targeted by the IRS make $29,000 or less a year.
Right. And the argument that that's where all the money is ridiculous. When you could just enforce the tax rate you should be enforcing on 10 people.
Right. Exactly.
and pay
and they're not even trying to pretend that that's where the money is. They've actually been very open about the fact that the wealthier a person is, the more he or she has lawyers who make it difficult to go after the money. So it's much easier for them to do these small, to penalize being poor. I mean, that is like a recurring theme. We just keep doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I would buy that argument. I would never buy that argument, but their argument would have more merit.
Right.
If they went after, if you're not going after the top 10 people, like,
right.
If you have $1 billion you can get in taxes.
Yeah.
And you're not making that fight. Look, they can't put up $100 million defense. They're not going to put up $100 million. Maybe they will put up $100 million defense, but you have to gain $1 billion. So make that fight.
Like Peter Thiel, did you see that he took out a Roth IRA, which is meant for middle-class families, right? And he invested the money. So what was his company? Was he PayPal? I think he was PayPal. He invested the money on basically like insider trading on his own company. He has made $5 billion, which when he becomes of entire retirement age will not be taxed. $5 billion. It will not be taxed at all because this already multi-hundred millionaire, maybe billionaire, I don't know, invested and used as like a loophole, a tax loophole. Totally legal and totally disgusting. All right.
Well, it all works out. I mean, because I'll put $7 into the same fund.
And then you'll withdraw it prematurely and get taxed on it and penalized for yeah.
I'll get my ATM charge will override my profits.
Exactly. You'll have negative. Good. Well done. Well played.
That's actually accurate.
We're beating the system. We keep having to take all of our money out of our Roth IRAs, so we got nothing, but it's just fun to watch those.
So many Roth IRAs here.
Yeah. Okay. This though, I do want to discuss because, oh God, I have a funny setup today and everything's wobbling. We are not having a California earthquake. I just have a table that's on tenuous ground here. Okay. I would like to talk to you just a bit about the March for Medicare for All rallies that are happening next month, July 24th. Right. I remember a time, I'm old enough to remember, when leftists on Twitter were told, log off and start organizing.
Touch grass. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that are used against leftists on Twitter. Like the fact that there are actual leftists or former leftists, I don't know what you want to call them, but attacking people who are, I don't care if you disagree, if you think that M4M4ALL is a literal grassroots, like non-organizer sponsored event, but they have legitimate, like great speakers. They have like over 300 speakers.
Right.
And for anyone that doesn't follow this story, good for you. Just go to the damn events. But the story is that some Nazi guy conned his way in. You got like an amateur group running this.
Right? Muncie. It was that in Muncie.
Yeah, in Muncie, Indiana, where apparently there wasn't even a rally. So what he did was he conned his way in, sent his info to the graphics team. It's an amateur group. They put together a graphics thing saying he was a speaker when he wasn't even a speaker. Now, I could be wrong on these facts. I don't know. I'm not in any way affiliated to this group, but I support Medicare for all. So I'm all for all the people putting these things out there. So as someone with no vested interest in this organization, I am not going to go on Twitter and say, oh my God, they wanted to platform a Nazi. No, they fucked up and somehow he got in their ranks, and that's a mistake. They need to fix it. They need to close those loops to make that.
But also they did right away, right? As soon as it was pointed out, they canceled that whole rally and apologized.
And that's the point. They did exactly what you would want in a response. As a response to that is they said the whole rally's gone, because I actually don't think there was a rally, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But there is no rally there anymore. He's out. They condemned Nazis, but there's a whole wing of phonies on the internet, Twitter,
former allies, haha.
Maybe trying to say that this was a red-brown alliance that this whole group was looking for somehow. Like they were going to just
they're maligning this whole group as if that was a strategy.
But the argument that they're making is, oh, you guys got caught doing this.
Yeah.
No, they never would have platformed this guy. I mean, the event wasn't.
Okay, sorry.
The event wasn't up yet. Oh, I forgot to mention my sponsor tonight.
Oh yeah. Tell me. I'm loyal. I'm still with my Noble Vine people.
Oh, nice.
Call me. Yeah.
Well, okay. So I'm a grifter. I'm not sponsored yet. But if they want to sponsor me, I will sponsor you.
Who do you got?
I will lie about how good their beer is.
Oh, come on.
This is my go-to local beer. It's Ubadank West Coast IPA by New Glory. Sacramento beer. Nice. Down the street from me. If you want to dox me, I live like 10 miles away.
Stop. You're being recorded. What's that? What's the alcohol by volume percentage there, Pat?
You're always going to beat me with wine. You know this. But
you broke out the bourbon I sent you, for God's sake.
You know what? I will get the bourbon in. Once we start talking about Podcast America, no, that's not even what it's called anymore. What is it? Pod Save America.
Pod Save.
That requires bourbon.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing I just have to say, because I want to go back to this before I get too drunk, which I did last time, and forget my whole train of thought, which is, so the first thing was, red, black, brown alliance. These people, obviously, they all want to, they'll just take all of the boogie boys or whatever the hell they're called. Then when it was called out and shown, no, they right away took off that guy, right? Then it became, oh my God, this is what happens when a group of Twitter people try to organize. They thought it was going to be so easy. Like they keep shifting the goals. And to me, this is it is so David Brock, Nero Tandon, disgusting level DNC smear. I can't believe that these were people that I, on any level, felt a union with a year ago. It's just repellent. And which brings me to, because I want to talk about what they did to you.
Oh, sure. It's just bad faith. I mean, if you could look at the reading of what you could look at what they did and you could say they fucked up. I wish they'd done that different or whatever you want to say. Right. Fine. If that's even if you're against the concept of people that aren't professional organizers organizing. If you think it's going to hurt Medicare for all that these people are organizing, I mean, that's a crazy idea. There's no effort to. It's just people making that argument are trying to diminish people like us and other regular people from complaining. It's the same bullshit people that want us to just leave it all to AOC and stuff.
Right.
It's nonsense. But if you believe in that, like, make your argument without lying. Like, you don't have to lie and say that these people wanted to platform these people.
Right.
They didn't want to platform them. It was a mistake, and they acted as the correct way immediately. And
by the way, like, they're volunteers. They're working really hard to make this happen. And someone showed that if you had just done a Google search, because it was like, just Google him. But if you did a Google search of the name he submitted, it did not point to his previous disgusting.
No. I mean, he obviously tricked his way into this thing.
Yeah,
And that's anyone taking an honest look at this would see that. It's not, that part is not up for debate.
It really isn't. And, I'm so done with the Democratic Party. They're disgusting. But and I think probably a lot of the people who are on the nominally on the left and calling out the Medicare for All March rally people would also have a problem with the DNC. But when you see who was at the DNC convention for our presidential candidate, right? We had John Kasich, we had Mike Bloomberg, we had some of the most repellent people. Was Cindy McCain there? I mean, we had disgusting right wingers, and somehow the fact that one person almost slipped by but didn't and was right away taken off, that's going to be the holdup. I mean, it really is just so bad faith and low.
Well, so that I guess brings. I didn't even know we were going to talk about my tweet.
Talk about it. You're part of the news today.
Yeah, but you know what? This is where this editing part comes in handy, because I will zing some graphics up.
I think we need to see it.
So right here is what they said. Right here is what they tweeted out about me. They shared a screenshot where the first part, which you can read right here,
I see it,
which I will add later. It was basically like me saying my position on working with the alt-right or Boogs is I'm anti-Boogs, always have been, yada, yada. And then I had the next paragraph was, but I don't want to, cancel an organization for a rookie mistake and, stuff about that. Okay. So what they did was they took out that second part. So they said, I've always been anti-Boogs, working with Boogs, but, and then they just blanked out the rest and shared the screenshot.
And so below that was, but secretly I really enjoy sucking the balls of Nazis. What are they implying there, right?
Yeah. I mean, the clear implication is that I'm making some excuse for we should work with Boogaloo Boys, which my post was specifically anti-working with that.
Right.
I even had someone today tweet out something like, oh, if your follower, they agreed with my position of not working with Boogaloo Boys, but they're like, oh, look at him arguing with his followers. If you have followers like that, you should just cancel your account. I'm literally taking the position you want, and you're trying to create this split on the left.
Yeah.
And these are people they take seriously. What is someone, this is the thing that I don't understand. If you want to be taken serious talking about politics, you should not be doing anything that's gaslighting and nonsense. And the minute you're shown to be doing some bullshit like that, you should pay a price, socially or whatever. I don't care.
Look at the price Hillary Clinton paid.
Yeah, but there needs to
be there's no price. It's the way they succeed. I mean, and to me, it's been such a mask off moment for so many people. Again, naively, I thought we're on the same side as I was, a couple of years ago. And between Force the Vote and this whole thing, they're just repellent little, our mutual friend Beth said it's like the Mean Girls in high school. And that's their whole vibe. It's just so inauthentic and disgusting.
Well, I feel like I have a little extra responsibility, I feel, once in a while to point it out when they do this stuff, because what they try to do is make this red brown alliance nonsense and this Jimmy Dore nonsense and all this stuff that's not related to anything. And they try to tie it all with your fraud squad, you're a Jimmy Dore stan, you're racist. You know, they try to pin all these things to you. But what they're doing is they're just going after anyone who supported Force the Vote. It's really about that, because I never was a fraud squatter. I don't stand Jimmy Dore.
Right.
I never attacked people that disagreed on any of that stuff.
Right.
If you hate Jimmy Dore, I'm not going to argue that you should love Jimmy Dore. If you were anti-Force the Vote, I never picked fights with anti-Force the Vote.
Right.
So the point is, all of that was because, like, the heat I get from these people is because I supported Force the Vote. I didn't fraud squad. I was like giving the squad a chance. I still am giving a squad a chance. I don't think they're phonies. I think they suck in a lot of ways, but I don't think they're evil people. Yeah. I mean,
I agree.
There's degrees in there, but that's why I pointed out, because, you know, the people that follow me know that I haven't done that. So when they make these nonsensical arguments and use bad faith stuff like they keep doing,
right,
I can clearly point out that they're full of shit.
Yeah. No, they've really revealed themselves. And
once in a while, I bring it up, but all it does also, every time I point it out, is it just gets me more heat. It draws these people attention, right, so they get amplified. So my rule is kind of like, you know, if 10, 20, 30 people see that and retweet it, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But I drew the line on the thing today or yesterday, whatever it was, with the fake screenshot, because when you share something that makes me look racist, that's really offensive.
Yeah,
that's offensive, and that could live on for a long time.
Right. And if they
want it to live on for a long time, and I'm not going to, you know, no, you have to some stuff them. I just have to punch back at.
I agree. All right. Well done.
Normally I punch up, because that's the whole theme of the show.
We punch up. Dun, da, da. We're going to get like a little graphic or something. Okay. All right. So let's move on. Oh, let's move on to our next segment. Are you ready? Our next segment is Who Said It? Red or blue? I'm giving a space so that you can easily edit in a graphic.
I need to work on this. This is all throwing me off. Yeah.
All right. Ready? Here's what it is. I don't think this will stump many people.
Are you going to read?
Yeah. Should I read it?
Yeah, read it.
I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it, even though it's probably going to be up on the screen, but I'm going to read it. I want to understand white rage, and I'm white. That is a very lib identity politics way of speaking. So, was it Mayor Pete who said that? Was it? No, I'm kidding. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, and I can't even come up with any other people. Was it our first female Black Indian Vice President, Kamala Harris? Or was it raging right-wing general?
I think in the future we should do this where I don't even know the answer.
Yeah.
But you can't follow Twitter to not know some of this. But well, you said Pete, and Pete, was it this week or is this an old thing? I don't know. I just learned about it this week, but apparently highways are racist, which he got a lot of shit for. but
Wait, I missed that. How did I miss it?
I missed I mean, I could make the argument because, I mean, fundamentally, you know, there's some, I mean, anytime there's a socioeconomic imbalance, it impacts people of color more.
Right.
I mean, it's just the way it is because our society has impacted them more in general. So in general, you know, so, and I'm assuming that was his argument, but he got a lot of shit.
I'm shocked that he made that argument. I mean, he's such a favorite with the people of color community. What did he say?
You know, that's the extent of what I know about this, and I'm going to leave it there.
I mean, that might be one of the few times I actually agree with him.
Yeah, no, I mean, he probably made a good point there.
Yeah.
But he did get a lot of shit for it. But
all right. Well, I'm not going to rush to his defense. That's like the death penalty affecting a bad person. I'm going to let that one lie. If the bolt of lightning takes him out, I'm going to not shed a tear. That's all I have to say. Okay, so let's talk about it, because now I keep wanting to say Mike, but it's Mark. It's General Mark Milley. Is a
who made the statement? Yes,
he made the statement. Yeah, General Mark Milley. Because a lot of right wingers, as we know, are vehemently opposed to studying critical race theory, and he, I think it was in front of a Senate commission, made the statement, which I think most of us would agree with. But he is now, just like, probably Rumsfeld, but like so many on the right, like Max Boot and, Jennifer Rubin and all the people in the George W. Bush administration, is becoming a hero of liberals, like the Lincoln Project. He is now a liberal hero.
Yeah, he punched back because I believe it was at a Senate committee hearing or something, but a Republican senator said something. He said, in response, that quote that we have up over here somewhere.
Look. Yeah.
Right. Look at that. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. We're so fancy. Brought to you by.
Yeah. So he's not wrong, but the idea that Democrats love the military, like it is kind of, we are kind of swapping roles here. Like,
yeah.
And politics has gotten so polarizing that that's where we're at. Like, it's now a Democratic military.
Yeah.
Which
we're giving more money to the police, right? Like, and
we're tough. And this comes back to Biden, because Biden, like, all the things that progressives and even regular old Democrats have been arguing for a long time need to change. Biden has a piece of in his history and politics. Right. He helped create a lot of this stuff, like the Patriot Act.
Right.
He's like, he claimed that he wrote the Patriot Act. He didn't, but
the fact that he would be proud of that is like, right.
You should run away from that.
Yeah. And now we're going to do the second one, because what I think this is intended to do, by the way, white nationalism, racism, neo-Nazism, all of that, I think, is an enormous problem in this country. But it's not a new problem. It's an enormous problem. And I think we should all study critical race theory. I think we should talk about it. I think we should talk about the true history. But the fact that this man is saying it at this point, I think, should be met with a little bit of not skepticism.
Yeah, no.
Skepticism about his motives, because what he is trying to do, as always with all of these career people, is get more financing for the groups that he helps finance, right? Like, so whether it's to increase the militarization of our police, whether it's to gear up to fight the terrorism at home, whatever it is, it's always to create an enemy and galvanize the country against a common enemy, which, again, like, yes, we need to fight these people, but I don't think that the tactics that our military and our police is going to take,
right,
the tactics that they are going to take, is what's going to help us change the minds and the hearts and the reality of so many of us on the ground.
Yeah, and another piece to this is, I mean, the military has been racist forever, and it's been indoctrinated with racism, and we're going to talk about the podcast in a minute.
I know it's so hard not to get.
I'm like,
right.
God, the shit they was said on the podcast.
You actually loved it. Let's face it, Pat. You love that podcast.
That
podcast.
What it reminded me of is I used to hate watch Maddow. So it was like hate listening to a podcast.
Yeah.
But it didn't end. Like Maddow was like, all in all, 30 minutes with all the commercials and bullshit.
Right.
That was like a long 72 minutes. Like, I know the minute total because I was watching
72.
I was like, dear God, get to the end of this thing. And
slowly moving.
And the beautiful part is after 15 minutes, I thought I was almost done with it. And I had 57.
Good for you.
57 minutes left.
That's what a low alcohol content beer will get you. You can still do your math. The computation's still happening in your head. Yeah, they were really all into him. They were talking about, and there are some parts of this. Do we move over?
No, let's time out this. Let's go back. We're not editing though. We're going to leave all this in. All right.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
But I'm going to splash a graphic somewhere.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I just talk shit about graphics because I don't
I want all the graphics. I can't wait. Tune in next week to see all the graphics that Pat adds to our fancy show. All right. Are we moving on though to rewatch it so you don't have to? Is this a good segue?
Should we?
Do you need
let's do it.
Do you need to go to your bourbon?
Oh, let's do a bourbon break.
Listen, you need to drink at your own pace. At your
No
pace.
So what we need right now is you need to mark the time, and I'll do a splashy little graphic that says bourbon break, and I'll come back with bourbon.
Bourbon break. It's a new graphic. All right, I'm actually going to pause it.
Bourbon break is perfect. Yeah.
Bourbon break.
Whatever works.
All right, I'm pausing. Okay. Yeah. So I think I just missed the best game of my older son Asher's life. But I want you to take it as how much I enjoy hanging out with you.
Keep talking. I'm trying to open this thing. It's got this child. It's got a child-proof seal, and I'm having problems.
Oh my God! I wish I could have sent a helper to you.
Please.
Yeah. I'm getting
subscribe to my Patreon, and I could afford a helper.
You could afford a helper.
Now that I'm a grifter.
Yeah, I'm getting texts about my kid's plays at third, which he normally doesn't play third, and it sounds like I just missed lots of moments that would have given me happiness at 3:00 in the morning when I normally shoot up in pain about the state of our world.
That's all right.
Sometimes those kid moments keep me going.
Here we go.
You got it?
I'm almost back on camera. Apologies, people.
I don't know. I feel like I'm doing oh, thank you. Yeah.
You're holding our show down without you.
No doubt better when you're here. There's no doubt.
No, I just wanted to say, as someone with no kids, here's why I can relate.
Okay, tell me.
My cat just brought me another mouse. So I am so proud that he brought me a mouse.
Wait,
even though so 2 nights ago, not last night, but he brought me another one. And this is the second time he's brought me a mouse that I think is dead, and it's not dead. Mice apparently play dead and then just run off.
Wait, inside your place or on the mat outside your place?
No, so I open the door and I see him out there, and I'm like, I think there's a mouse. And I'm like, oh crap. And I didn't shut my door. That was a mistake. And the next thing I know, he's brought it in with his mouth.
Oh my God, I gotta go take a break.
And he drops it, and I think it's gone. And then I look, and I'm like, no, it's not gone. So it was like an hour. Oh no, it wasn't an hour. It was like 20-minute process of me saving this mouse.
Nope, I
saved him. I'd
have to move. That'd be the end of me.
I'm a softie, so I saved the mouse, and it was a long process, but I just want some social status points because I'm a good guy.
Awesome. I don't know why I'm so terrified of rodents, but and sharks. Rodents and sharks.
If he brought me a shark, holy shit.
No, you just punch it in the nose. Or kick it in the eye. You kick it in the eye or punch it in the nose.
Yeah.
Cheers.
With your own leg.
Yeah. Cheers. Oh, wow. You didn't sip that. You just went crazy on that.
I'm sipping.
No, we don't sip.
And I just want to say thank you to Lila, who sent me this lovely bottle of Elijah Craig, who are not yet sponsors.
But hey, Elijah Craig, are you listening?
And I'm taking my cues because I just watched the Pod Save America or whatever the shit name it is, but they run their ads constantly. Like they're like, yeah, and Bill
like
Clinton, and let me talk to you about almonds. Let's talk about almonds.
And it's like a 15-minute segment. From that to some like security system to some other, like it just never ends.
It's so disingenuous. Anyway, let's run the graphic about Pod Save America.
We watched it.
Oh, so we watched it, so you don't have to. And we're back. Holy shit.
Painful. Grab your liquor, gather around.
And can I just say, to be honest, like they weren't even that offensive. Like they were not like, this is something they're allowed to do, just like MSNBC. Like this is sort of the off season where you can be neutral. There's no election coming up.
Right.
It doesn't really matter. They don't have to go to bat they don't have to think to tell you that Bernie's a Nazi or whatever. Right. You know, they don't have to do that for like 2 years. Well, a year now.
Yeah.
But they had their moments, and I picked out their propaganda. So,
all right. Well, you want to start? Go ahead. You start, and okay. Now you're going back to beer. Beer before liquor, never sicker. I'm joking. I'm trying to remember.
Don't make me finish that joke. There's so many lines I can complete that with.
Okay, I just have to say, and then we're going to get into it. But last week, I think you and I learned a little bit from our first episode, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed heavily. I overenjoyed. I was overserved. And I decided that instead of having 6 glasses of wine in 2.5 hours, this time I'm going to try and cram it all into 90 minutes, but I don't know how much wine I'm going to have.
I think you should have all 6 glasses. And then the last 10 minutes, I think we just edit it down to the whole show is the last 10 minutes of you and I like pointing and raging at people.
And just vomit like spilling out of my mouth.
Yeah, just rage. Yeah. And I'll bleep everything. It'll be bleep, bleep. It'll be amazing. It
was crazy for me to watch what my family endures every night and to see it on tape and like, oh wow, I was so fun for like the first hour, and then it just gets like angrier and nastier and slurrier.
I think I started slurry and then just went from there, but that's fine. That's fine. I want to set the tone that we don't really like. No one should take us seriously. I mean, you should take us seriously and listen to us or whatever. Who cares? But like, if I say one random thing, you should not think I'm some special person with some magical view. Like podcasters are just podcasters, but like follow a lot of people. Don't follow CNN. Don't follow MSNBC. Do your own research.
Right.
You know, like I'm not spinning propaganda. Right. Lila and I will both vouch that we don't take money from any group.
Unfortunately, from no one. We are self-funded.
I would love Elijah Craig, my favorite whiskey. Bourbon.
My noble vineyards.
My favorite bourbon. And hey, New Glory's local beer.
Right down the block.
But no one is paying me. I mean, maybe Lila's being paid. I don't know.
Yeah.
She's a little sus, to be honest.
I'm so sus. Although I didn't write some tweet that was like, I don't believe in hanging out with Nazis, but.
I mean, when I get done with you on Twitter, you will have written that tweet.
Oh, sorry, I can
Photoshop like a maniac. Like,
you and your graphics. Shit. All right, so let's go because we did endure this for all of you.
Okay.
You're welcome very much.
I took notes.
All right, I can't wait to hear. Go ahead. I'm going to let you start.
So my first note is the ads are mixed in like they're the show. Like the transition from the ads to the show is like I said. Hey, Nancy Pelosi isn't the worst person on earth, and almond milk is great for your body, or something like.
Yeah, seamless.
Yeah, and they made a casual joke which was right in the beginning about so this is subtle, but they were making a joke about somehow it got to Batman and Bruce Wayne. I don't even know what the joke was. I would have hit rewind, but like, holy fuck, 72 minutes of this show, I'm not rewinding.
Wait, was it the oral sex joke?
Was there an oral sex joke?
No, I don't know, because that was all I know about Batman this past week, is that they said he can't do oral sex.
Oh, maybe I missed all this.
What was
so
the
they
joke?
were like, well, no, they were like, haha, defund Bruce Wayne.
Oh God.
Does that make sense? Does that?
No,
I don't know.
They should have done an oral sex joke.
But it's a little knock on defund. You know, it's like, it's small. I don't want to. I'm not making them
gross.
like oral sex is gross. I got it, lad.
No, shut up. My God, you just did to me what they did to you with the Boogaloos. No.
But
oral sex is for superheroes. But DC said that you can't have Batman performing oral sex. That happened last week. They cut a scene where Batman was supposed to be performing oral sex. Okay, so that became
cartoon oral sex.
Yeah, it was the Saturday morning cartoon.
Saturday morning, like
but so that was like a big joke last week. So if you're gonna make a joke about Batman, you make a joke about that. You don't make a joke about defund the police. Like, Batman's a billionaire.
Yeah, so that joke pivoted to defund the police.
Of course it did with them.
But it's like, I could see us making that joke in their defense. I'm not trying to defend them, but it's just.
Oh, I'm not trying to defend them, but that's going to be that's what I'm going to be.
I literally said in their defense, but I'm not trying to defend them.
If I had any graphic ability, you'd be done. You'd be canceled.
I might just kill myself on this.
You love the podcast.
I might put the graphics up and just.
You love the podcast, guys. Admit it.
No, I mean, it was pretty awful, but I had a hard time finding like terrible things to disagree with them on. So here's one of them.
Okay.
So when they got to the military story we were talking about with General
Mark Milley,
who the hell knows?
Yeah.
So their guest, which was Sam Sanders, not a cousin of Bernie, unfortunately.
I thought when I saw Sanders, I was like, we got to watch this one because I'm going to hate them even more because of how they're going to be like really, like unctuous and gross. And instead it wasn't even him. And so, yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Sam Sanders.
No. So they made the argument. He made the argument. I believe. I could be wrong. I don't want to get canceled. One of them made the argument, but I think it was Sam. Sketchy dude. No, I don't know. I don't know anything about Sam's history. I know the history about the podcasters because they all were Obama interns or whatever's for Obama.
Writers. Oh yeah.
Like
they were major players in his administration.
Right. And that is a resume, like that's their resume. And they put it out there proudly. And God save America or whatever. I don't know. So anyway, what they said was that what he said was that the military was ahead of the rest of the country in social issues. And right. I mean, so it was a both sides thing, sort of like he was like.
They've conflated two separate issues, which was the military employs, I think, a third people of color, a third, I don't know what the other third. Yeah.
So while you're on that topic, this was the thing that stood out to me as the biggest bullshit.
Yeah.
This was the selling point of the military, essentially. This was their starting, like, blam, the military is not bad.
Right.
Point. They're the largest employees of trans people.
Right. And people of color. So that was both. It was both. It was trans people, people of color. Like, they went all out on all of it, all of the identity politics. Yeah.
So the worst thing on earth, just because you give people jobs is not like a benefit. Like, it's not.
Doesn't mean that you're super woke.
That's not a proud thing. That's not woke. Yeah. These are
people who are usually on the lower economic spectrum who are desperate for healthcare, education, and the military is the biggest provider of that because we keep our people so subjugated in this country that we don't have Medicare for all. We don't have free public college. And so the biggest employer of people who are kept desperate is the military, who goes off and fights wars for the 1% and the oil companies. I mean, we all know that that's actually what the whole pyramid is, but they made it sound like the military is some fantastic place for people of color and marginalized communities and poor Americans to be. That's not like, it's not a cause and effect. It is just two congruent facts. And actually the cause and effect is that because our government has denied our people so many social services and welfare programs, we are forcing people to enlist in a military that has not fought for our freedom or for anybody's freedom, arguably since 1944.
Yeah. And so we're in the position where, I mean, obviously the military has done some terrible things. And the problem is when you sign up with the military, you sign up for whatever terrible thing they have in mind. So I will never fault anyone who goes in the military, anyone who, you know, like I'm a support your troops guy, regardless of that, because in the end, I think we need a military. So I'm not going to fault people, you know, like it's naive, in my opinion, to think we don't need a military.
Right. So
we need a military. So I'm pro the existence of the military. So this gets complex and complicated, but like, I don't want to fault the people individually who are in the military, because obviously, in my opinion, we need them to exist. But you are at the whim of these terrible decisions and these people that put your life on the line for capital, for, you know, to try to secure resources around the world, for economic hitmen that come over and want to overthrow a dictator so that we can put that country under our whim to get their oil if you're Venezuela or, you know, whatever. But I had a point before this, but who cares? But
okay, so I'm going to take us back. So what we're talking about was their proposition was that the military is somehow some, you know, pro-justice, equal opportunity, progressive institution, as opposed to the fact that because it happens to have all of these poor people of color, marginalized communities, because those same communities have been systematically subjugated by our politics and our government in order to give them so few opportunities that the military then seems like something that is somehow, you know, oh my God, Pat, that somehow like it's calling, like it's a better opportunity for them than any other thing that exists, and that is by design.
Which could even be the case, which is awful. Like, that's the whole point, is that if you're stuck and you feel like your option is the military, like that's, you know, I love the idea of a public service by choice, of, you know, like that gives so many people a heads up in life. If you can do something in public service and build a resume, but it's you can go there, you can work for the social services, you know, that's great. But
build houses,
but we don't have that. We have, like, you can go to the military, you know?
Yeah.
But so on the military line, like the
how's the Elijah thing?
Oh no, I blame that shot of bourbon.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a lot.
No, actually, it could not have kicked in this sense. So I'm not blaming that. I'm blaming my own brain farts. But the one thing that the show was trying to do, or that they brought up, I'm not going to say this is some overriding plan or narrative, but they did say it, is that they made the case that, and this is a propaganda technique. They're like, okay. And they laid out, well, the military has been bad in the past on race and issues, But this new guy, Miles, is that his name? Miles or
Millie.
This new guy, Millie, he wants more funding so that we can eradicate the racism. You know, they made that sort of case, like they're bad, but this guy's good. And, you know, so acknowledging, and this is where the propaganda comes in. It's like, okay, are you going to hold them to account? Like you're acknowledging that there was a problem. You're saying this guy's sort of good. It's sort of telling people to go to sleep. Like this is all safe and covered, which is ultimately the whole plan of their whole podcast. Like they all are insider establishment folks pushing an establishment narrative.
Right.
So the idea is like, okay, trust him, trust the plan, trust that he's not bad. They're going to reform it. And he's going to ask for more money to make the military less racist. And are you against? Lila? Are you against more money if it makes the military more racist, less racist, less racist?
More money for the military, more money for police, right?
Yeah,
more surveillance of our own national, our citizens.
And that was ultimately Biden's plan. Not plan, but his solution to all the uproar in the street about Black Lives Matter. We were all screaming, defund, but he's extra funding.
Yeah.
Like we were saying defund. He's like, no, let's give him more money and we'll train him in programs.
And part of what liberals and the pod save guys are saying is isn't that so funny? It's actually Republicans who are against funding the military and funding the police. And here's the thing. There is we need to have a healthy skepticism towards these huge establishment projects, right? We should not be just sort of unquestionably funding police and our military and all of these, the surveillance program. That is not who we should be. And that is not who liberals, now liberal for me has become sort of a dirty word, but years ago, liberal was what I considered myself. I'm now a leftist, whatever. The terminology changes, but our group, our side used to have a lot of skepticism for these government agencies. And now the whole, it's like the whole Russiagate thing. They are all in for the FBI and the CIA and the police. And that should trouble everybody. And as you said, there shouldn't be trust. None of this should be blind trust. We should be constantly trying to just peel back the narratives to see what the truth is underneath. And that the fact that liberals are now sort of swallowing that a general is some woke, identity politics guy is ridiculous. And the aim is to put us all back to sleep a little bit.
That's it.
That's it. Okay. The next thing I'm going to bring up, because this, again, so much of what my problem with them is, well, first of all, I'm always just going to kind of despise anybody who went so hard against Bernie or who didn't go all in for Bernie when he really had a shot of winning. So I find them all repulsive and they're all allied with Obama and all that kind of stuff. But they talk a lot about the big lie and Republicans and the insurrection on January 6th and how Republicans are against democracy. And I agree. Yes, all of that is true. But and Fox News. But they never, there's no self-awareness. There's never any discussion about how the DNC held the primaries, how the Democrats sued to get the Green Party off the ballot, how Russiagate was the biggest lie and attempt to undermine a democratically elected president whom I loathe. But then again, I wasn't Hillary and her posse who propped him up and conspired with, MSNBC to show only his empty podiums while Bernie was playing to thousands or tens of thousands. So the fact that they never bring that part in, they're just, of course, I know they're only operating on one side, but it just makes them the betrayal because I thought, it's what happened with you and the whole Medicare or the March for Medicare for All, the betrayal of people who I had thought were on my side and to see what they did when we were so close with somebody who I think could have affected so much change. And then they're going to call out those exact same tactics on the right. I just feel like, I don't care. Like you guys are they're all in the same boat to me now. Anyway, yeah. So I think the thing that is eternally frustrating to me about the Pod Save guys and all of the liberal establishment is that they are very good at pointing out the either hypocrisy or anti-democratic nature of the right, which I agree with. Like, you know, we all agree with that. But when it comes to some introspection or self-awareness, they don't talk about MSNBC. They don't talk about the absolute failure of every part of Russiagate, honestly, or the anti-democratic nature of the DNC. And so what that leaves me with is like a total distrust of people who I thought for a while we were on the same side of. And now I realize it's all just done, as you said earlier, just to put everybody to sleep.
Yeah. I mean, that's the problem with the Pod Saves podcast, which is it's the same thing as Rachel Maddow. It's the same thing as a lot of the stuff you'll see on MSNBC. So they're all allowed for a while to critique the progressive wing a little bit. And everything they say about the right, like it's generally true. Like the right's a bunch of shitbags. So they build trust in that way. So they build trust. And if you're a normie Dem, even if you have progressive beliefs, especially actually if you have progressive beliefs, you are their demographic. Yeah. They would love you to be their listener because the goal is to build your trust, to earn your trust, because you hear them occasionally sort of saying pro-Bernie things, attacking the establishment. You'll hear them fake attack the establishment. Right. And so they'll earn your trust. And then 2 years from now, when it's time to vote, they will they will use that trust that they have earned with you to lie to you, to propagandize you against, I totally trust the Pod Save guys. They're really anti Nancy Pelosi's new whatever. They're whatever. Right. And then, but they're telling me, God damn it, if we don't vote for Biden, fucking Trump is our president. So I agree with Bernie, all this stuff like they do. Right. But you got to vote no matter who. If we don't vote for Biden, it's all over, and this country will fall into fascism. Yeah. Yeah. It's really striking. And I mean, I think they're just counting on two things. One is most people being propagandized and just like kind of marching along. And then also just not having the time. Like, who has the time to get into the weeds of all of this stuff? But when you look at so much of what Biden's done since he's come into power, he's kind of just reinforcing most of what Trump did. I mean, there's very little that he has pushed back on. There were a couple of pipelines, but then he okayed a bunch of them. He and his Justice Department are supporting Trump. They're defending Trump on 3 or 4 different lawsuits. We know the kids are still in cages. We're telling people not to come from Central Latin America, right? Like all of these things that were so horrific a year ago are all of a sudden not. Our CDC is a disaster, right? So, and some of these things were pledged in the damn campaign that would happen in the first 100 days, and they are within his power as an executive to pass an executive order. And he hasn't done them. I mean, what's the excuse for that? There is no excuse for that. What do you want him to do? The Congress is split 50-50. On it. It's not on executive orders. Cinema and there's always a reason. There is always a reason provided. And once you decide, hey, maybe Democrats aren't the good guys, and maybe they're all being paid by the same people, and you see it through that lens, then anybody justifying any of it, it's ridiculous. People are still talking about how do we convince Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema to change? It's this is so, are we still doing this? It's so embarrassing. We did this with Joe Lieberman 11 years ago. We're going to do it with, the only way, so the argument should be, how do we convince the Democratic Party at large to not accept their bullshit?
Right.
Because they are enablers of the bullshit. They're not, that's not even the right word. They want that bullshit because that bullshit their donors demand.
Yeah.
Their donors demand that they don't actually pass this stuff. So how do we change the whole party to where they know all of them will lose their elections if they don't support these things, which they will never, it's not going to happen. We don't have that media power.
Yeah, we don't
but
have the media power. Yeah.
That's where we need to be.
It is. And so what that means, it's the whole like harm reduction and withholding your vote. And Breonna Joy Gray spoke about it, I think, the most eloquently and vociferously for such a long time leading up to Joe Biden's election, which was like, how do we leverage this time? And we didn't do it. I mean, most people, I'm the only person that I know. Well, that's not true. I'm one of the few people I know who didn't vote for Biden. I just couldn't do it. And I'm not blaming anybody who did, but I understand the fear and the pressure and all of that. But I don't know when people will be convinced that it wasn't the right choice. Like, what does it mean to have a party that says we listen to the experts and we believe science, but we're still going to pass these 31 permits for fossil fuel and pipelines or drilling of pipelines. And we're not going to re-engage. We're not going to rejoin the Iran nuclear deal, which is disgusting, right? Like that was his old boss's signature achievement, I think, not joining that, right? We're bombing Syria, which is unconstitutional. It's a war crime. We should not be, right? But like one thing after another, and you start, I understand harm reduction, and I do think for some people, harm was reduced. But I think when you only focus on those people, you're losing sight of all the people for whom harm wasn't reduced. And if we're going to blame Trump voters for every action Trump took, I think we have to blame Biden voters for everything Biden does. And I think we have to talk about that.
I think the whole argument is a mess. I mean, I really don't want to blame Biden voters because
blame is the wrong word. Sorry, I don't mean
no. I don't want to push back on you on this either because I agree basically with your premise. It's just if I could unplug myself from all this bullshit and know less, I would. And it's such a toxic mess that people just don't know enough, and they will. We're in a place where people, and this is the problem with trying. I mean, I want to vote third party. I voted third party myself. I voted for Greens. I'm in California, so it's a little different, but I think I would have anywhere. But we are so far from informing the public about all this mess. We are so far from like, the public gets what the problems are, but they don't connect that with the Democratic Party yet. Like it's still.
Although half of the country doesn't vote either way, so I think they might not. Yeah, like they know that voting isn't actually the solution. Unfortunately, I mean it could be. I do think it.
No, you can't vote your
democracy, but
this is where I land on all of it. You can't vote. We can't vote ourselves out of it, and that's that. The Democratic Party wants you to think you can vote your way out of this. Anyone that wants to vote in a way that could get us out of this will be blocked by the Democratic Party. Right. Like the candidates that could potentially vote, like we could vote for them and it'll get us out of this. We could have like 7 or 8 of the squad and we could argue about if that is good or bad, like if they're actually on our side or not. It doesn't matter. Let's say they're on our side completely and awesome people. It's going to stop at like 10 to 12 and they're going to find a way to shut it down and keep it at a manageable margin. So we're fucked in that regard. Take it to the state level. So New York just joined California in having in their actual democratic plan to pass universal health care, and having a super majority. So you have no excuse. Both these states have no excuse for not passing state Medicare for all, since they have all the power, literally all the power.
And they prevent it from coming to a vote.
And they find a reason. They find a reason. They have one fall guy. California was Anthony Rendon. I don't know who New York's was, but essentially they find a reason that it can't be done, even though they have all the power. Which is, it's the same situation now. Like the parliamentarian,
right?
If you look at how these things work, essentially in the Senate, Kamala Harris decides all in the Senate. Like a lot of these rules in Senate procedure, if there's disagreement, it goes to Kamala Harris because she's the deciding vote on it. Right. I mean, it's nonsense.
If they really were concerned about her winning in 2024 or 2028, whatever happens,
she could have been bold and proud, and
they could have allowed her to do the $15 minimum wage, right? And they didn't. And I think that
they didn't even pressure Manchin. Joe Biden didn't even talk to Joe Manchin about it. Didn't even talk to him. They admitted this.
It's crazy to me that Democrats aren't forced to choose their narrative. Like either the presidential powers are so enormous that Donald Trump was an existential threat and we had to get rid of him and vote out fascism, or what's Joe Biden going to do? He only has the presidency and both houses of Congress. Look, yeah.
What am I supposed to do with all the power? Sorry. No, but that's where they're going to sell us the midterms. And in the midterms, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I honestly don't. Like, I'm at the point where Republicans are so ridiculous, but like you have to appeal to your base. So, their base is fired up on all this nonsense. I mean, I think all the culture war issues, like both parties want it. They want it. Like Democrats want the culture party.
That's the only difference between them, right? Truly. It's the only.
I mean, it's the big one. I mean,
the rest of it, like, why isn't anybody calling? Like, why aren't Democrats holding Biden to account that he just bombed Syria without congressional approval? Nothing. There's nothing. That's under their purview. That is what they are supposed to be doing, is authorizing military strikes. And but we didn't fall to fascism. And if we critique him on that, we are going to enable fascism. And we're in such a critical time in our government where fascism is on the rise again, that if you're critical of him, if you're critical of Biden and Democrats, you're opening up the door, because Democrats suck so much, which we all admit, and they will admit it. Right.
But they will say, but still, God damn it, do you want Trump to win next time?
Right.
Or do you want Tucker Carlson to be your next president? Or
the whole play. That is it. That's all they're doing. And it's, if the opposition party is supposed to be holding off fascism, and maybe they will in 2022, and maybe they will in 2024, but if you look at everything that's happening in our country, it is just a slow slide or fast slide towards the right, and we are not, the opposition party is not resisting.
Well, the problem is you counter it with supporting communities. So like in these areas where a radical right message might take hold, hey, you need healthcare.
Right. Yeah.
That's why in West Virginia, back to speaking with Paul Jean recently, but like Bernie won 55 counties in West Virginia.
And by the way, 55 are all the counties of West Virginia.
Yeah.
When people
that's an important feature.
Yeah.
All of them. He won all of them. So when you argue that like stopping fascism is the most important thing to you, like, okay, let's take West Virginia, then wouldn't you support the guy that most people on our side supported, but the Democratic Party was against him, like adamantly against him? So, the argument against fascism is nonsense. I mean, yes, we're anti-fascist. I mean, we're literal anti-fascists.
Right. if they truly believed in that, they would be pushing for policies that would, because the
You
country
change people's lives.
Yeah, the country didn't turn racist in 2016. Like the same people who voted for Obama or didn't show up to vote for Hillary in 2020 or voted for Trump, they existed 4 years before, right? So there is a sliding scale. And I am not saying that there aren't a ton of racists in the Republican Party, but there are a ton of racists in the Democratic Party. And the way to, and this is not me saying like, let's align with the Boogaloos, but the way to get people to start thinking about the whole community is to bring them into huge, progressive, bold, universal policies that make them feel like they have a stake in their country, in their society, in their community. And instead, what both parties want to do is separate everybody.
I mean, are you telling me that, like, okay, in areas where coal jobs are going away, a jobs program is going to be unpopular? Like a guaranteed jobs program, a federal guaranteed jobs program. I mean, are those people going to be, no, I'm not going to vote for the Medicare for all when I'm paying $400 a month and I know 10 people that have lost their house because they had a health injury. I mean, these issues poll well because everyone understands them.
Yeah.
And so the Democratic Party backs the guy who pretends that's not true, which is Joe Manchin. I mean, in West Virginia specifically, but like, we'll have a Joe Manchin regardless. Like, if so, like in the Democratic Party, if you're an up and comer, if you want to be an up and comer, just act like Joe Manchin in a Republican state. If you can win an election, you will have power forever.
Yeah. No, it's reprehensible. It really is. And it's such a revealing, it reveals who Democrats are. And again, like, I feel like I always have to do this disclaimer. I know who Trump is. I know who Republicans are. Never been a Republican. I don't even know any Republicans. But it has been a really sad realization for me over the last 5-6 years to see how many people who consider themselves Democrats are really just George W. Bush Republicans. And, it feels a little lonely.
I mean,
sad and scary.
It gets tiresome. And so we're not going to always add the asterisk that we fucking hate Trump, but we fucking hate Trump. He's a terrible piece of shit. Yeah. Republican ideology is terrible. It's still based on 1980s trickle-down economics, which in part Democrats have adopted as well, which is just garbage. But like
Willie Hortonism, I mean, all of that.
If you want, the point is, if you want to beat that, if you want to overturn that, if you want to actually change things, you have to go to what's popular. So let's say you and I disagree. You and Joe centrist view right now. You disagree with me. I say progressive things. Let's just both agree to vote on. Let's get the Democratic Party to support policies based on popularity. All right. So you want to overturn fascism? Let's just vote on what's popular. Right. Let's do that. Will you agree to do that? Because you won't, because that's all the progressive agenda.
Well, and as soon as that happened, right, like Bernie goes on Fox for a town hall and gets standing ovations. And instead it was, oh, well, look at him. Look, going on Fox News. Meanwhile, everybody else was begging to go on there. And even on the election night, there was poll after poll on Fox News. All of Bernie's policies were majority popular. So once you know that, which we all do, then what you realize is it is the establishment that both parties in power are working for. And there is no interest. There's in helping any of it. There's always going to be a Joe Manchin, a Kirsten Sinema. There's going to be the parliamentarian. There's going to be a Joe Lieberman. Right. It is that Glenn Greenwald, column from 2011 about the rotating villain, and there will always be one. And if the Senate is 50-50, then there's going to be one holdout. If it's 60-40, then there's going to be 11 holdouts. Like there's always going to be something preventing. But we just love these policies. We're going to work so hard. We're going to give you your $2,000 check. We're going to give you a public option. We're going to give you a $15 minimum wage. But we just can't because.
Oh, we're 2 red state Democrats away. Damn it.
Yeah. We got 5 minutes, Pat, for you to tell me all your gold. Should we end this on something positive? Like, what's good? What do we do? What are we looking towards?
Yeah, okay. So first off,
yeah,
I'm going to make this a personal goal of mine to not say, I don't care. No, honestly, I don't care. I can insult myself. I'm not a public speaker. I actually hate public speaking. I wouldn't say, I'm an introvert, but like, I'm over all the introverted qualities other than public speaking. I hate public speaking.
Well, you're very good at it, so.
No, bullshit. I had a point. I don't know. What was the point?
The good thing. I said, let's end on something kind of positive and happy. Yeah.
So for the second week in a row, we wanted to end on a good thing, and we want to promote like a good thing every week. That's our goal. And this week is a special circumstance because I was learning software and trying to figure out how to do this all live because we want to have a live show if you're watching.
Because nobody pays us to do this. We are working crazy hours.
Yeah, editing a show takes forever.
Who don't know how to grift.
Yeah, of course we're grifting. I mean, we're doing this because we just want to like express our views and hopefully shape a little bit of a teeny bit of a narrative on the left. Who knows? Look, nothing I say is ever going to change anything. But if there are like 1,000 people like us with podcasts, maybe. Who knows?
Mostly I just enjoy hanging out with you and drinking too much.
Well, let's just drink some shots on it. Who cares?
But one good thing, a good thing. So
yeah, so we want every week to have something positive, a good thing. So I'm going to take the low hanging fruit since we didn't talk about it and I didn't plan for it. And I only had an hour to prepare for the show. Rumsfeld's dead. I'm not saying I love it, but it's a good thing.
I thought our good thing was going to be like mutual aid or something. But okay.
Yes, of course. That's our usual goal.
So if you want to send money to the funeral, no, I'm kidding. I'm totally joking. But you know what? Maybe what we need is some suggestions from our viewers about possible like organizations or things.
I agree entirely. I already have a few suggestions. I already know a few groups, but we want to add a segment on the show where we highlight and maybe have a quick interview with a group that's doing some good for the public. It could just be a local thing. It doesn't have to be a national thing. And we can just show that like, hey, holy shit, here's some good stuff happening that we can extrapolate nationally and hopefully people see it and think, oh, that's great, or a national program that's doing some good. So, if you're one of those groups and you are vetted, because we've already reached out to some groups that are not good. And we realized that after a little bit. So it's a tough thing to find now. So please
do reach out to us. We want to highlight some positivity because I think we spend a lot of time punching up, which is important because, we're all the victims of the powerful establishment and it's important to call them all out on their stuff. But it's also important for us to see some glimmers of hope. And so we would love to hear.
For $500, you can come on our show and talk about your charity.
From some of you about what you're doing or some organizations that we maybe should highlight because we're all in this together. I think we're our own saviors. Unfortunately, we can't rely on anybody else right now. So reach out to us. Let us know.
Absolutely agree.
All right, Pat, this was fun.
All right. Thank you everyone for watching. And
you.
In theory, next week we're live. If we're not, sorry, but we're rookies. So.
If we're not, you can blame Pat and his lack of grifting ability to hire some helpers.
Right. If I happen to platform a Nazi, call me out on it, but it's not going to happen. So good night, everyone.
Good night.
On that note.
Thanks for watching. Bye, Pat. I'll talk to you later.